All right, I started recording. Let me share my screen. Okay, you guys see my screen? Is this what we did last time? Um, cool. Yeah, this is what we did last time. Um, we had this game, which is, you can play the game, you can pause, you can end the game, play again, pause, and play or end, you know, um, using the condition rendering, right? So the only two things left in this um, in React. I mean, React has so many different things, but in order to capture what we want to learn, um, there are two things left. One is um, the rendering something, like a for loop, right? So let if you have a bunch of numbers and you want to render them multiple times, uh, you can do that. So basically iteration, and then use effect. Use effect is a um, is an interesting one. It allows you to capture changes in your state and then take action based on that. Okay, so today we're gonna look at the that um, iteration, and next time we can look at the use effect. And I think uh, let's look at what project you are doing. Rahim, what project are you doing, by the way? I forgot. I know you mentioned it. I think it was a tic-tac-toe you're doing? Yeah, okay. Tic-tac-toe on JS. Okay. What about Latifa? What you doing in as a project?
Hi. Yes, I'm doing the tic-tac-toe as well.
Oh, you're doing tic-tac-toe as well? Okay. All right. Um, so I'm just trying to think. In tic-tac-toe, what you have to do is you have to um, render the screen, the initial screen, and as user plays, um, yeah. So I think we would need the use effect in that sense. So um, all right, let's just cover that. Okay, so let me create a new project first. And again, for your final project, let's say if you can finish all the features that you wanted to do. Let's say if you can't finish the whole tic-tac-toe, I would suggest just do whatever you can, but have it functional. So something needs to run, right? Um, and then let me know what feature you're gonna add later on. Okay, because it can be a comprehensive product. So let's create a new project here. Okay, so let's learn about how to render stuff. Things that are in an array form or repeating, right? So let's define an array here. So I'm gonna create an array. I'm gonna say let um, nums equal to a bunch of numbers, right? And I want to render these numbers in here, like 1, 2, 3, like that. Um, for tic-tac-toe, you probably have to do the same thing because you are rendering, I guess, those little blocks, right? Uh, but I think in tic-tac-toe, because it's a fixed block, you probably don't need it as, I mean, yeah, I don't think you probably need it because you're rendering the fixed blocks. You're not really, it's not dynamic, right? But let's say if you have something dynamic that where you have an array and then you're rendering that, um, you can use a technique. So what you have to do is, first of all, anything that you render dynamically, you would use curly brackets, right? And then remember we learned about the map function. So the map function was something like this, right? If you remember. So it was like nums dot map. And then remember we were, if I want to double every element, then I would take the value and then I would do something like this. I would say 2 multiplied by well, and this would return an array with um, elements that is doubled in value. So it will be like 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on and so forth, right? Um, but instead of doubling the value, what we're gonna do is we can also return. So I can take number one, and then I can actually say, okay, you know what? Instead of doubling, I'm gonna create an element. So I can add a div, element, right? And then put one here. You know, I can do that as well, and that would return me an array of elements, right? Which will get rendered. So that's what we're gonna do, which is pretty simple actually. So here, the way it works is I would say nums dot map, and then um, inside I would have a val which returns, you know, let's do div and then val, right? So it returns all the numbers like this. Uh, and I can style it as well. Let's add a class name, right? I'm just gonna call it tile or something. All right. And then remember class you can just add here dot tile, and then I can style it. Let's add some border. Border is, let's say, 1 pixel, solid, red, right? You can see and then I can add some margin, pixel, um, or check 5 pixel margin. Okay. Something like this, right? So now I have, um, I can add another value, let's say 7, and it renders 7 here, right? Instead of numbers, this could be, stuff like a string array. Let's say if this was, list of items, right? Like a grocery bag, I can say um, milk, uh, tea, sugar, right? And I can see them here. Okay. So this is how you can iterate things. You just have to use this format. You can just remember this format, right? And then whatever you put inside here automatically mm, renders, right? Now I can also do something, I can style this better because this is using this div without flex. Remember we learned about flex, right? So if I want to use some flex, then I can add a parent, which I can do here, right? Right. So I've added a parent to these values, and inside I can just class name equal to parent, and inside the parent I can add style, and I can say display. Remember display flex? See what happens now? By default, uh, they're not blocks, right? So I can add padding, 5 pixel, right? It looks something like this. Okay. Um, let's try this out. I'm going to leave this here. So first write JavaScript, and then once you're done with it, let me know. I can move to CSS, or you can apply your own style because you have classes, right? I'll give you a few minutes. Any questions, by the way? Okay. Yeah, as I said, in your project, you're not going to be using this. In the tic-tac-toe, you're not going to be using this because tic-tac-toe, you are using fix element. So what you want to do is literally you want to create 8 fix elements, right? So you want to create 8 divs, right? Fix divs. You don't want to use this dynamic. Um, yeah, dynamic, you want to use it when your array can change, right? Because it's in tic-tac-toe, you have what, 9 blocks and which you can hard code. All right, so give it a try, and then we can move further. Once you do that, uh, we can let me know once you finish it building this. Let me know this side so I can. Yeah, let me know, Latifa, once you finish this. I can give you the next step. So in the next step, what we want to do is this, which will help you build a tic-tac-toe, is that I can, if I click on milk, I want to create a label here, like some sort of label here. So if I click on milk, it should show milk. If I click on tea, it should show, the label should change. Okay, so let's create that. But once you finish it, let me know so I can. Um, all right. So once you have it, right? Yeah, okay, you have it. Okay, cool. So next thing we want to do is we want to create a label here. So I'm going to call it, um, let's call it item. Okay. or selected item. Let's call it selected item. Okay. And then here we want to put a value. Okay. The value it's going to be um, whatever you click on, right? So if I click on milk, that value need to change to milk, right? And then for that, you would need state, right? So if you remember, I'm just gonna do somewhat work and then I'll leave it to you for the rest. Use effect, oh sorry, use state from React, right? You need to get that, and you need to create a state here. Let's say const. I'm gonna call it selected, set selected, right? Uh, Equal to use state, and then initially the state is going to be empty. Okay. And I want you to use this state here, selected here. Uh, so right now the selected is, or whatever, uh, not, I would say not selected or something, right? So right by default right now, nothing is selected. Okay. I want you to use this event, on-click event on the items, which you can do on this element, which allows you to click and then set all you have to do is just set the selected value, right? So when you do that, it will be milk, tea, and sugar. Got the question? Any question on this?
Um, so we're just gonna set it up like we did last week.
Yeah, so remember, we have this state called selected, right? Which I have set here, which means, you know, if I change this, if this changes, right, it would show up here automatically, right? So all I have to do is when I click on each item, if I click on milk, I want selected to be milk. Using this, you do that using set selected, right? If I click on tea, the selected would be tea, and then so on and so forth, right? So all you have to do is just use an on-click event on this element to set the selected item. I'll be back in a minute. Let me know once you finish it. All right. So, all right, looks like you got it. Okay, cool. Um, so how did you achieve it, Latifa?
Um, I created a function
Hmm.
for the play box. I named it play box and then set the selected.
Hmm.
And then I went in and created the status and set it to not selected and created a button for the on click,
Hmm.
which I put as play box and the value set to it what for milk.
Hmm. Okay.
I hope I'm on the right track.
No, no, no. So I mean, I think you were on the right track. The only thing is, I haven't showed you one trick, so that's why I think you would have like a half solution. Okay. So here's the full solution, right? So you're the right track. So you need to first create a handle, right? So you need a function called I don't know, a set value or something. I don't know, selected handle or something. Uh, change selected handle. Always use handle at the end of it so that you know that this is because not to you don't want to create a same function name as set selected, right? So and inside you can do whatever set selected and you can pass some. Let's say I'm gonna set the value called XYZ. Okay. I'm hard coded the value, which means it's gonna whenever I click on anything, it's gonna change to XYZ, right? And then so I'm gonna have on click here event and then equal to I can set this to this, right? Which means whenever I click on it, um, okay, what is the issue here? Oh, yeah, I need to put it in the double. All right. So then, see, right, it's not selected, but if I click on it, it becomes XYZ, right? Which is what it's supposed to do. But what I really want is I want the milk, tea, and sugar coming here, right? So what I need to do is I need to pass this value, whatever the value is coming in, right? Because that value is set here, so milk. So if I can somehow pass the value in this handle and then get that value here and then set it, right? Which we haven't actually learned. That's why um, we are doing this exercise. Right now, we are actually passing the function, um, but there's no way in the function because we're not executing the function, right? There's no way to pass the value inside. So what we need to do is um, we need to execute it. But if I execute it, for example, let's say if I did this and just pass the value here, right? Um, or val, sorry, right? Which is, milk and whatnot. The issue is it gets executed and it passes it gets executed and it doesn't do anything, right? So this is a wrong way of doing this. If I want to execute it, what I need to do um, is I need to actually wrap it with another function. So I have to do this. I have to wrap it with another function and then execute it. This is the right syntax. And then I can pass val here, right? If I did that, which means I can pass the value inside, right? And then it would be available here. And then I'll just have to do, I mean, this you can name whatever, doesn't matter what it is. But now if I click on milk, tea, sugar, right? It's coming up correctly.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah, it was a tricky question, but but I want you to think about it this way, right? So far we have clicked and we haven't passed anything, but if you want to pass something, you have to use this method. You have to just wrap it with another function, another arrow function, and then inside you need to execute that function and just pass the value. Um, and then that value will come through here.
Okay, so we're passing whatever the value is in the array.
Whatever the value is. So what this array does, it it loops through, map actually loops through, and then it returns 3 items, right? So when it returns 3 items, first of all, it would substitute this val here, right? And then this would become the milk. The second element would become tea, and then the third element would become sugar, right? Um, but at the same time, it will also create 3 handles here. It will have for each element, it would also uh, execute it's almost like it's doing um, it executes when it only executes when I click on it, right? But it binds the value that is associated with this. And so each of these item, milk has a milk here, and then has a handle with milk here. Tea has a tea here, and then handle with tea, and then sugar has the same thing. So that's what it's doing, right? So this way it's binding the value. Format this. Okay. So anytime you want to pass something, you just, you know, uh, you just wrap it with another function and then pass the value.
Okay, I get it.
Okay. Um, okay. Also, I have actually, I don't know if I've given you this, but after this class, I wanted to give you earlier so that you can use it. Um, you can actually, not this one. Okay. So past my course, I have a React course on Udemy. Um, you can actually go here, and it's a free coupon, which means you don't really have to, once you register with Udemy, right? Remember this link, copy this link somewhere, and then once you register, first go and register with Udemy, right? Create an account and everything, if you don't have one, and then open this link, and then go through checkout. It should not ask you for any payment. Uh, you will have this course automatically available. But
Okay,
you have to register it, right? I mean, you have to go through the process to add the course, and then it will be available for you. Um, this has a kind of a comprehensive, so after this class, you can actually continue with the course. It has way more stuff on React. You can actually build much bigger application. Um, you know, it has more than what we learned in this class, right? Because this class, it's limited time, and so we can learn everything, right? So you can continue on this journey using that. Also, let me give you another. Um, I know Rahim already has it, but Rahim, if you don't have it, you can you can use that coupon. Let me. This is a coupon. The second coupon I put there is for JavaScript. So also the things that we learn in JavaScript. Um, there's way more things to learn in JavaScript, so you can take that as well. I would suggest just to after this class, just go over the JavaScript once and then go through a React again.
Okay,
Okay.
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Uh,
Now, will this help me to? I took great notes throughout the whole class, but for building the tic tac toe
mhm,
um, for the project,
mhm.
will I be using React
You can
and JavaScript?
well JavaScript. Well, so as I said, JavaScript is React is built using JavaScript, right? But you can actually just use pure JavaScript. Not you don't have to use React, right? But React makes things much easier, as you can see. It has, you know, uh, built-in functionality like useState and all that stuff. It makes you manage a state more efficiently. If you just use pure JavaScript, you have to then build those manage the state by yourself, right? You have to write functionality to manage a state, which becomes a little bit difficult. But if you are good at JavaScript, you can do that, obviously. Mhm. So for you, I would suggest, for this project, just go use React because it's much easier right now. But eventually, you should be able to do in a raw JavaScript as well. Remember, a raw JavaScript is one we used to do in CodePen, right? Um, so if you want to do, in raw JavaScript, then you have to write HTML, CSS, and JavaScript here, right? If you want to use React, you can just use Code Sandbox. You can write everything in app.js. And anything for the CSS, you can use a style.css, right? Does that
Okay.
does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I'll
Okay.
just I want to learn more about React, so
Mhm.
if I have to do the project in React, that'd be great.
Okay. There's actually one good resource for React. Hold on, let me look through it. Um, somewhere I've yeah, if I come across that, let me see what you can do. Hold on, let me for the resources. Um, what you can do is there is I think Code Academy also has it. Let me show you. Um, the only thing you have to be really careful about this is um, there was an old version of React and a new version of React, right? Um, a lot of people still using old version of React. So I would say that's kind of waste of time because React has moved away from it. And even though some people are still using old version of React, there's no point of learning because it's kind of conflicting, right? So you can learn. Let me quickly check if this one has the Code Academy is usually pretty good. If you have some time, you can learn. Um, let's look at if it has so it has something extended. Yeah, this is old. You see, the way they are creating is using class, which is an uh, uh, old style of React. It's kind of that then it becomes waste of time. I would just go with the hooks directly and then learn using hooks. I would rather use, this is a good cheat sheet that you can use um, to learn React. Uh, Stateless components. Yeah, as I said, yeah, they're still using the old version of it, so I would not go there.
Okay, so the ones that refer to hooks is the latest version.
Yeah, hooks is the latest version. If you see something that doesn't where you have let me show you here. If you go and the problem with that is, there are so many um because that was the first version and a lot of projects still using it. Uh, this is the main React source. React.org is the main React source, for example. I'm just gonna put in a chat here. And if I just go in and get started, and then learn React, you will have, you know, um, you will have, oh, start back here. You will have some tutorials, right? Practical tutorials. But then let me see if they have, you see, this is the way they create components, uh, which again, it's still very old. Yeah. Um, I'm looking for, yeah, this is also, you see, this is actually tic-tac-toe game. They already have a tic-tac-toe game. Um, that they're building it, but they're using the old React to do that. And you would see they would finish the game here. The end somewhere here. Yeah, but what we are doing is this functional component. You see, this is more like what we are doing, right? Functional component, like square and let's see. You see, this is they're using class. So if you want to refer to this code, this is I think this is a full functional game, right? For tic-tac-toe. The only thing, as I said, it's an old style, so I would not recommend using it, but you can use it as a reference and understand it and just use hooks, what we are doing, right, to build this game. And I think this is not a complete game because you can see it's just using all the X's, not O's. But I think in the tutorial, they will have full. So let me give you more resources. Just write it down somewhere. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the reality. It's mix of yeah. One of the most important thing would be like declaring a winner, right? How do you declare a winner? So um, once you have the game, you have to say um, on every time you click on it, you need to figure out whether uh, X has won or O has won, right? And then so that that logic you need to write, and here you can look at it. Like, this is I think this is pretty much the full game. You see, winner is X. It's not a very complex game, um, but you can. How many lines of code? About 100 lines of code. Okay.
Whoa. So I can use this for reference for,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. If what I would suggest is use this as a reference, right? And I don't believe in what I'm saying is I, I don't believe in like you have to create everything yourself, right? Um, what I would suggest is think about make a plan first of all that I'm gonna do this, right? And then look at the reference and say, okay, what are they doing, right? Are they matching my expectation? Are they doing something different, right? And then change your strategy. Obviously, you cannot use this code as it is because this is not written in uh, the modern React. This is a previous version, which means you have to translate this. Um, but you can use some of the stuff, like how to calculate winner, right? Um, and understand how it works. But you can use some of the stuff from here as well. So, um, yeah, I would say just try by yourself first. When you get stuck, this would be a good reference to look at. It's about 100 lines, so which means you can pretty much, if you start now, you can finish in a couple of days, I would say. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, that's that. Um, and then it has like way more stuff. I'm trying to see if they have I think yeah, as I said, it's pretty much a lot of old stuff. There was actually another resource. Let me see, which I found it very helpful. There's some free courses. Try this out. There's some free courses that you can take. Um, but as I said, if you're taking through like old React, like when you create um, let's see, when you create a if they're not using useState, then it's an old way of doing this. If you see a word called class, right? Like here you would see um, class board extends react dot component or something like that. That means they're using um, old React. So, but yeah, I would suggest go through. My course is pure newer version, right? Like for example, this 18 version is definitely old because this new version was introduced, I think in 2019 or something. Yeah. So check this out. Um, yeah, I tried to put my my course on here, but I think it did not. Somehow they did not. Uh, yeah, but some of these are like the paid version. Well, if I find that other one, which was pretty great, I can I can include that in there. But this is a great resource to learn React. Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
I'll check it out.
okay. Cool. So that's that. Let me put this in the Discord. So those who did not attend today can look at it. Okay. Um, all right. Now let's look at the most important thing, the use effect. This is this is a little tricky in terms of how um, how we think, right? Um, updates. Um, so as I said, the way React works is it has this something called state, right? So like say, for example, selected is a state. Okay. And think of this web page. When I click on it, it says, oh, set selected to this value, right? It's almost like let's say I have I am the UI, and let's say you are the person who's supposed to paint this screen, right? And I am the HTML here. Okay. So the way it's going to work is when I click on this, it says change set selected, right, to new value. So if I click on milk, um, I pass the milk to the set selected and set. Imagine whenever you do something, whenever you do set on anything, it calls something on your side. So you are the, let's say, guardian of the state. And anytime you do set something, it could be any state change, right? You notice that, oh, this value has changed, right? So what you're gonna do, you're gonna say, okay, you imagine you're sitting behind the screen somewhere, holding this state, and then you have to manually update everything, right? So you come here and then they say, okay, now this has changed. So I need to update everywhere there's a val, right? Not val, wherever you select it. So you come here and says, okay, you'll only look at anything that is between these curly brackets. So how many things do you see within the curly bracket, right? You would see only one thing selected here, right? So you go here and then change this to milk, right? Because, and then which is here, right? So now your screen is repainted with that new value, right? If I click on T, for example, then at that point we set selected T. So you get that value and say, okay, where's this selected is used? It's used here, right? So you then go and paint the screen. Okay. So let's say and that's React. React's job is to actually take that and then paint it. So you're not, as a UI, I am not doing any of that stuff, right? But if you write in pure JavaScript, you have to update those as well by yourself. So React takes care of it because it has this, state management inside, somewhere inside, right? Which is great. All I have to do is say update this, and it goes and updates that thing wherever it's written, right? Uh, what if I wanna? What if there's something uh, where it's if one thing is updated, I want to say if this gets updated, I want to do something else. Okay. Um, right now we don't see that mechanism here, right? And also, what happens is that um, when when this gets updated, let's say React gets this, and then it goes and updates this. We don't know when it finished because if I want to do something after that, I have no idea when React has finished painting, right? So if I figure out when React has finished painting, I can do something else based on that, right? So that's where the use effect comes in the picture. And I wanted to cover that today because then I guess if you're using use effect, let me see if well, I don't think tic-tac-toe has use effect. I mean, obviously this is not going to have use effect, but I wanted to figure out if it's using something similar. Yeah, I don't think it requires that. Okay, I don't think it requires that. So that's good. So even if you don't grasp the whole concept, it's fine uh, for you to build this. But imagine if you were to do that, and how would you do it? So let's create a new project, and um, I'm gonna have two buttons here. If I click on one button and update the state, as soon as the state is updated, I want to update something else. Okay, so we want to understand how the use effect really works. Uh, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a state first, right? So I'm going to say import. And again, this is the standard stuff. You just import use state, right? From React, right? That gives you that use state ability to maintain state. And then you would say const. Let's say I'm going to create um, well, and then set well equal to use state, right? And I have some initial value, which is 0. Let's put it as a number, 0, right? And what I wanted to do is I wanted to use, if I click on it, let's say if a button changes, because I need some action that changes its value, right? So I'm gonna use a button, um, and then increment or something like that, right? Okay, and then I have an on click here equal to increment handle, right? Okay, and then here I can write that handle, which is a function. See, now you're probably getting the concept of React, right? You just have to create some state. You have to create some elements with some events like on click, and then you write the handle that executes that event, and then here you set the state, right? It's pretty standard uh, in here, right? So in this case, we'll just set the value, and I'm just going to increment, so I can say value plus 1, right? Which means if I click on it, it uh, you know it it updates the value to one more, right? So let's say here I have a div, and then inside I have a value equal to slash div, and I'm just going to put that value here, right? Right. So right now value is 5. If I click on it, it becomes 6. Okay. Now what I want to do is once the value reaches, let's say 10, I want to put a message here, okay, saying you are exceeding 10. Okay. Um, I mean, I can just do that here as well. I can check if the value is this, then you're exceeding. But the best way to handle this is using UseEffect, right? So as I said, when I click on here, it goes and sets the value, and then the React takes this value and it just repaints wherever the value is, which is only one place here, right? So right now it's 28. So if I click on it again, it's like 28 plus 1, which is 29, and it repaints it on the screen, which is here, right? So that becomes 29, right? But we don't know when it finishes repainting, right? So once it finishes repainting, uh, I want to, at that point, the value is updated, right? Before that, the value is not updated. So for example, let's say sets the value here, right? If I come here and then just say console log uh console log value, right? Even after the setting, it will still show me the old value because it hasn't finished painting, right? So if I open this and then if I click on increment, right now it's 29, right? So at this point it would set it to 30, right? So I'm assuming that it should become 30 here, right? But it's not. So if I click on it, it's just still showing 29 because it's updated the value, but it hasn't finished repainting, right? So I need to know when it finishes repainting, and then I can say, okay, now what's the new value of this, val, right? So that's the trick. So for that, I would need another hook called use effect. Okay, what use effect does is it it allows me to it kind of watches this value, right? So the way you write this is very different. See how we use state like in this fashion? Use effect is written in completely different fashion. So we would say use effect, and then inside we would have a callback function. So it takes a function. It has two arguments. Again, it's just a function, like any other function, right? So this is a function, and it has two arguments. One would be uh, a function, and a second would be an array, right? So the function is basically uh, execute this when this changes. Think about it this way. When anything so here I can put val, right? Which means when val changes, execute this, right? Well, when val repaints, think about this. When val repaints, well, val is painted, right? Execute this, right? So if I console log val, okay, so now, right now it's 0, right? If I increment this, it would be 1. It matches this, right? You see, now it really matches. Before, um, it wasn't matching. It was giving me the previous value. Now it really matches. So this is pretty important. So you're watching, in a way, you're saying if val changes, I wanna I wanna do something. Okay. So now we're gonna write that logic. If val changes goes over 10, I wanna say, hey, you're going over 10. Because I'm getting the right at the right location where the value is updated, I can actually do that, right? So here I can say if the val is greater than, let's say, 10, I would say console log, you have exceeded, is that the right word? Okay, exceeded uh, 10, something like that, right? So let's watch this. I'm gonna clear this. 7, 8, 9, 10, right? Now it's gonna say you exceeded 10. Okay, so this is pretty cool because it lets you monitor something, right? Um, we haven't actually looked at an application for this, but at least we know how it works. Next thing to do is kind of figure out what the application is, right? Any question on this one?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So use effect is actually controlling the number um, that's set that you can go up to. Whereas the increment handle, you could just go as far as you want because you're just clicking, clicking, clicking.
Use effect actually not controlling it. It just imagine you have some person is watching this screen, okay? And then it's checking, and then so it has two things. It says, okay, watch Val, okay, and do something when Val is updated. That's all it's saying. So that function itself, it's doing something, and then the second argument is basically watching something. And I can actually watch multiple. If I have multiple states, let's say if I have another state here, something, let's say something, right? And I can have a set something, right? I can have something like this, right? And if I want to watch both of them, I can do that as well. And this is basically, imagine if you have a guy who just looking at the screen, and then once, as soon as it repainting the screen, it says, okay, I'm just going to execute anything that is inside this function. In this case, I'm just using this to check whether it's something is exceeded or not, right? But I can do something else as well. Um, what I can do is I can have another state, right? Like this something, I can update something to um, um, let's say let's do this. I can do set something to val plus 1, right? Which means this other value is going to be one more than val. But I need to know when val is updated. Then I can update this something, right? Um, so here, I'm just going to do this, right? Div. Um, I should not call it something. I would say second value or something. Set second value. Okay. And then what it does, when the val is changed, this second value is incremented by 1 to whatever the val is, right? And here I can say second value equal to this. All right. So uh, okay, what is happening here? Something is not defined. Yeah, because we changed this to second value. That's why. Okay. So now, right now, val is 0, right? Uh, if I increment it, why is it not updating? Oh, not set second value. It's supposed to be second value, right? So if when I click on it, what happens? Right now, val is 1, right? If I increment it, what's going to happen? It's going to set val equal to val plus 1, right? So it's going to take val 1 plus 1, so it makes it 2, right? So then it gets repainted. So that little guy inside React says, okay, val has changed to 2. Wherever the val is used, let's just change it to 2, right? And it says here, this changes to 2, right? And then we would see it gets repainted on the screen to 2, okay? Then this second guy, which is UseEffect, is monitoring the screen for changes in val, right? So it says, oh, val has changed to 2, which means I'm going to run this, right? And so then it takes the value of whatever 2 and it adds 1 to it and it makes it 3, right? So then that little guy inside says, oh, second value has changed to 3. Wherever the second value is, I'm going to repaint it. So the second value is here, so it's going to paint this to 3. So let's see in action, right? So when I click on it, this becomes 2, this becomes 3. but it happens so fast, right? Um, so this like one change influences another change. Does it make sense? Right?
Yes.
So use effect is almost like watching something like value, and it once it's changing, it's going to do something. So whatever you've defined here is it's basically um, running it as soon as the screen is painted, right? Um, again, React is in a way, if you think of React, it's pretty simple, right? It has a screen UI, right, which is defined here in HTML form, and then it has some actions, right, like on click and things like that. And then when you click on it, it runs some handles like this, right? And it sets some events, sets some values. And then that's all you have to do in React. Let the updating of the screen taken care by React itself. We never said that update this value to, you know, to something. We just put the value, say whatever the value is, let it get updated, right? So React takes care of it. So UseEffect also does the same thing. But UseEffect, we haven't taken any action. Like here, I clicked on it, and that's why this ran, right? UseEffect is like, I am watching this, and when this change, I'm gonna change something. So that is my action, right? Um, so combination of this is very powerful. It can, you can see, um, potential for, doing something, right? Um, for example, you click on something, you want to update the score, or you want to derive something from the score, you can just use that to to set something, right? Um, let me. I'm just gonna put this in the Discord as well. So um, yeah, any question on this one? Try this out. Um, Try this out. This is pretty fun. And then I would suggest to change. You know, let's say instead of +1, you can say, -1, which gives you the original value, right? So when you click on it, it gives you the one less value, right? Or do something really crazy, right? It doesn't matter. Uh, you know, See, that's why I feel, React is very simple. You just have to remember like how to manage states. That's all you need to do. Everything else managed by, React underneath. It looks like it's only you and I today. I think Raheem has dropped. I think he was working. Um, he was at his job, and I think he's working hours, so he has dropped.
Cool. I'm getting it. I'm almost done.
Okay. Um, and if you watch my video in Udemy, which actually I have broken down this concept in like every single tutorial, you'll probably get much clearer idea of how it works, right? So um, if you don't want to watch all the recordings, you can just go and watch the you know, the the Udemy course. And I would suggest to you that is just do more practice, right? Once you grasp the overall concept in React, things becomes much easier, right? So if you like when you first learn this, it all looked very foreign to you, right? Um, but once you do a couple of examples, um, you will get better understanding at this. And also when I in the course, I go through a lot of different examples. So all you have to do is just go and practice those. And eventually what you want to do is just to create, like, write everything from scratch. Um, like start with an incrementer, right? So build in an incrementer by yourself, see how it works and all that. Even if you don't get the full concept of React, if you can do this much, I think that will be a success, right? Um, let me know once you've finished typing this. And then what we can do is, since you're gonna work on tic-tac-toe, I can just quickly go over the tic-tac-toe concept, right? So um, that would help you build the game.
Okay, I have it.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's understand how it works, right? So in tic-tac-toe, and I'm gonna explain to you this code. I mean, again, this is an older React, but still we can kind of understand this, right? So um, if you look at so as I said, React is pretty much that HTML, right? So if you look at this code, you will have the HTML, which is coming from here, like line 48 to line 68, right? It just bunch of divs, just like what we have, which paints this grid, which is 3 by 3. And you can see the first row, second row, and a third row, right? Inside, you have something called render square. Again, this is an old syntax, but ultimately, what you need is an array, right? Because you want to keep your state is going to be an array, right? Not a single number. So far, our state is here a single value, right? But what if your state is an array, which holds all the, so imagine you have, initially, it's all empty, right? So you have 9 blocks, right? 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you have 9 blocks. So this is your state. Let's say if you create a state like this, const, um, I don't know, blocks or something, set blocks, right? Equal to use state. And then inside you can just use this, right? Something like this. So initially, your state is nothing but a bunch of empty values. And I mean, it's your block is two-dimensional, right? So, but the way you want to read is this is first element, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seven, eight, nine. You're kind of zigzagging it, right? And you can see here that, the first row, it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like that, right? So all you have to do is use that array element. So you can see this is the first value of the row. This is the second value of the, and so forth, right? That initially, so that it will be all empty, right? Because if I render it, it'll be all empty, right? Because I have initial state is all empty, right? Then you want to put click event on each of those, right? And how do you put the click event? Mhm. There will be an event here somewhere. So what they have done is, oh, okay. So they have actually created a separate component called a render square, but you can just put hard coded the square, right? But if you look at it, its square is basically like this, and there's a value, and then there's an on click event, and there's a handle click, right? So you can look at the handle click, which is this, right? What happens in a handle click? Handle click is nothing but when you click on each individual. Remember, we looked at how to pass stuff from so if I have X here, if I click on, I can pass that value here, right? So what it's doing actually, every time you pass something in, it first takes that array. So the squares is an array, okay? So we have this blocks as an array, but if you call it squares, right? This would be set squares, right? That's my array. So what this does is, let's say this is the squares. So you don't have to say this dot state. This is an old way of doing things. Um, and so what it does, it takes that uh, the value, right? The one you clicked, and it actually tries to calculate the winner. So every time I click on it, I want to know if I won or not, right? Uh, and so that's all it does. Every time I click on it, it tries to calculate the winner. Okay. Um, and then also you want to put wherever you put, you want to take that. So let's say if I click here, which is a zeroth element of the array, right? So for example, I clicked on this. So I just want to change this to whatever the X or Y, right? So I want to change this to X, right? The second guy clicks on it, like the second cell, then you want to change this to O, right? And then once you do that, it repaints itself. Remember, the React takes care of the painting stuff, right? So if it's X, if it's the first guy, then it puts X. If it's the second guy, it puts what? O, right? And that's all it does actually. And it has, and then you have to look at the how it calculates the winner, which is the most important thing. Otherwise, it's pretty simple. Okay, the calculated winner is probably so you need to understand it, this one, how it's doing this, right? Um, which I'll leave it to you. But otherwise, that's all it's doing. So that's your tic-tac-toe game. Okay. And then you probably need a state called winner as well, because um, if X wins, then you want to say X is a winner. So you need to define multiple states, right? One is your array with all the elements, and then the second is who is the next guy. Is X is an X or O is an X, right? So if it's X is true, which means he is the winner. If when he clicks on it. If it's not, then O is the winner, right? That's how it does. Any question on that one?
Okay, so how does it keep up with who's X and who's O?
Okay, so think about this way. Whenever you start, assume that always X starts first. So to simplify this game, right? Let's run this. You would notice that X is always, the next player is X, right? So you can create a state and then set it as, I can create a new state here. I can call const next player, right? And I can say set next player, right? Equal to use state. And I'm going to set it to X, okay? Which means X starts always. Make sense? In this game, X always starts, okay? So now on the click event, when I click on it, I already know that next player is going to be O because you have alternate, right? So at that point, you would set this to set next player to. If it's X, then make it O. If it's O, then make it X, right? Now now the next player is O, right? So when I click on it, it's going to be O. Then the next player becomes X. When I click on it, it becomes X. So all you do is whenever you click on it, the first thing you say, whatever the player is, change the next player to whatever if it's X, make it O. If it's O, make it X, right? And then you need to figure out, whenever you click on it, you need to figure out, is, because you already know the player, right? Is this a winner? If O a winner, because I click on, by X, is X a winner, right? Is O a winner? Is X a winner? Yeah, winner is X because now. So whenever you click on it, it checks whether, I have a winning combination. Again, that's why I just wanted to explain like high level, but you can figure out the logic. And how about this? You understand the code, and then if you have any questions, you can ask me next time, right? But what you want to do is you need two things. You need a place to manage the array of all the X and O's, and then you need a who's playing right now. Is it X or O? So like one. So you just need two states. You need next player and you need squares. Got it? I would just say, go and play this game for a few times, understand the code. That will give you an idea, and then then build your game. The good thing about it is the code is here, but what will be good is you can then You need to actually convert this into, you know, uh, using use state, right? So that's fun part. So start from scratch and then build on that.
Got it. I can see it when we were using the React when you were explaining it to me. So I could kind of imagine what it looks like, what it's going to look like, and what it's going to take.
Yeah. And it's essentially, you're managing states. In React, it's all about states. Repainting, it's done. So it's all about events. When you click on it, something happens, right? You change a state. What happens when I click on it? This is this is zeroth element, one, two, three, four, five, and just a sixth element. So if I click on here, I'm clicking on a sixth element, which means whoever the next player is, it's going to be, I need to add that into to that, right? And as soon as I add it, you don't have to worry about painting because painting is done by React, right? So you never have to think about painting. React is all about managing the state, events and state. If you can just think of this way, and then let the rest of the stuff that taken care of by React itself. So anytime you build something, you can say, okay, what am I tracking? What is my state? In this case, the state is all the elements here, which is an array, and then who's playing, X and a O, right? So yeah. And this in this case, this user is very clever because he just said, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna have a next player, which is initially it's gonna be X, right? But if you make a very comprehensive game, then you need to actually define two player who's gonna go first and all that stuff. But in this case, they have said, okay, X is always goes first, and O is next, right? So, all right, cool. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to cover today. And since we are the only one left here, let me, feel free to ask questions, and if try this out at home. If you have any questions, we can discuss next time. We have one more session, right? And then 14 is the last day. Okay.
Yeah, I have no questions, but I'm going to look at your course and go over this video so that I could prepare for turning in my assignment.
Okay. Cool. Yep. Uh, and again, as I said, you can always email me or message me on Canvas or Discord if you have cool questions, right? But otherwise, I'll give you maybe 15 minutes back.
I would be
So,
sure to do all of the same.
okay.
Look out for my emails.
Okay. Yeah, if you want a quick response, you can just put it on Discord. But otherwise, I usually check email on a daily basis. So mm, it can have like a 12-hour or 24-hour, round trip. So, so
Sounds good.
all right.
Okay.
Have a good night, and I'll see you next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.